everyone, guess what? We do not have ugly swag. We have spaced out radio gear that you're going to want to wear. Why? Because no one wants to wear ugly clothing. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com and go shopping today. You'll be glad you did. And it's a great way to support our show. Once you get your gear, send us a picture of you rocking out in your SOR swag. spacedoutradio.com. Shop there today. And make yourself look good.
Greetings, space travelers. Welcome home. Glad you are here tonight, joining us for another After Hours radio show episode. It is going to be a great one. We have Michelle Blasky, who is a film director, and she also has had experience with the phenomena. And she's into the my favorite genre, which is horror. So we'll be getting into that and a whole lot more on this awesome show tonight. Make sure you guys don't go anywhere right here at the After Hours radio show. Let me go ahead and take a look and see who has come in first tonight. And it looks like we have Race Fan with the gold, Kitty Cattywhack with the silver, and Tina McCowan with the bronze. Thank you for coming in to support the show. We do appreciate you guys showing up here at the After Hours radio show. We got Richard Minnick saying evening. We have Roger Murray, January 12, 1944, 81st birthday. Led Zeppelin guitarist Jimmy Page, UFO over Los Angeles, saying humanoid hovering over the wildfires potentially here. Number of blue objects, not burned fires. Interesting, Roger Murray. Thanks for keeping us informed. And it is definitely something I want to look into because I did hear about the UFO that was supposedly in smoke during the fire. So we'll see. Thanks for coming on in as well. Cosmic Joe Chronicles. Thanks for showing up here tonight. Also, we have Kathy Evans. Thanks for coming on in. We have an Eternal sighting. Thanks for coming on in saying hi, Rob G. Hey, Eternity Eternal. Thanks for showing up. Ethanol. Hello, all. Hello, Ethanol. Thanks for coming on in. Frankie B saying, yeah, I made it on time. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Right back to you, Frankie B. Thanks for coming on in and joining the show tonight. Gemma Jackson saying hi, guys. Hey, Gemma Jackson. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for coming on in tonight. We got Robert F. Lamont Jr. saying, Rob, right back to you, Robert Lamont. Thanks for coming on in. We appreciate you showing on up. Who else do we have here? Anyone else? Magneticus. He wasn't first. No, you weren't, but thanks for coming on in. Appreciate you showing up. Hillbilly Herb, same for you. Amy Crabtree, thanks for coming in. JMJ12, thanks for showing up tonight. And I think we are pretty current here, which is awesome because it's going to be an awesome show. Let's go ahead and get ready for the podcast side of this to start, which we will do right about now. Why not? Let's do it now. Welcome to Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. Tonight, we're going to have an awesome show. We have film director Lynn Blasky joining us for hours 1 and 2. We have Steve Stockton, Tells and Told Missing Person Mysteries, and also Drew Benke with the After Hours wrap up. It's going to be another awesome show, another one like the other one, as they say. And we're going to go ahead and get into it. We have about 20 seconds before we start the radio side. Get ready, guys. Let's go. All right, here we go. Greetings, space travelers. Welcome home. You just tuned your dial to Spaced Out Radio, the only place where you can own the night. I am your host, Mr. Rob G. And tonight, we're going to be broadcasting for you on our terrestrial affiliates across North America, plus digitally on digital platforms all around the world. Don't forget, you can access our archives for absolutely free. YouTube.com/@SpacedOutRadio. And while you're there, please consider hitting that subscribe button. Don't forget to follow us on X and Instagram at Spaced Out Radio and that Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where the options are endless. You can stay up to date with us on our newswire. You can get yourself some official Spaced Out swag. Plus, rock out to the man you hear right there, Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Call. And so much more. We're going to have an awesome show tonight. Lynn Blasky, film director, and also experiencer of the phenomenon, hours 1 and 2. And then we have Steve Stockton, Tells and Told Missing Person Mysteries, plus Drew Benke with the After Hours wrap-up. Going to be an awesome show. We're going to jump right on into it, as we always do, and bring in our guest of the night, Lynn Blasky. Michelle, how are you? Nice to meet you.
Hey, Rob, how are you? I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing really well. Really, really well. Thanks for asking here. I was looking into your film work, and I like your style. I was like, I need to get her to direct something for me. But maybe that's something we can talk about afterwards. But I wanted to get into talking about you as a filmmaker. Okay, what do you focus on in film as far as any particular genre? I think I know the answer to that. And then kind of what led you into doing that? Like what fueled your fire to be a filmmaker?
So what led me into it? Well, I know that when I was a kid, I used to do all kinds of crazy things, and my father got mad at me one day and said, Michelle, you make everything into a big production. But I'm bummed. No, but seriously, I guess a lot of stuff. I mean, I absolutely love watching film. My sister and I used to go to the movies and watch all these like horror movies, like Pieces and Girls' Night Out and all these like weird, obscure kind of films. And some of them were kind of like really low bar. And I was thinking to myself, like, wow, I was really intrigued, but at the same time, I was like, there's a lot more that can be said. There's a lot more like detail that can be put into these films. And it kind of inspired me to kind of go further with it. Like, especially like in the writing. Like I think that all problems start in the writing. And if a film is not good, it's because the writing wasn't good, I think. So I like to focus on that. At heart, I think I am a writer, and I like to spend a lot of time with character development, motives, interactions between characters, going through character development, like, things that were taught to me in my film classes, like what was your character doing like 5 minutes ago kind of thing. And just trying to make it well-rounded and make it make it believable and make people, when they watch something, make them forget about everything behind them and everything around them, because that's kind of like what theater is to me, is that you can walk into a theater and it's kind of sacred, and you just, everything else kind of like dissolves. And then what was the other question?
No, actually, that was an excellent answer. And I'm as you talk, I'm feeling it because I'm an artist myself. I'm a musician. So I understand the process and I understand exactly what you're saying there. So that it really resonated with me. But as far as like your filming, your directing style, I guess is what it would be. You had greats out there like John Carpenter, Wes Craven for me, right? And
Oh yeah,
others who were ones that you looked at, or maybe you felt like you modeled yourself after.
absolutely. And you named at least one of them, John Carpenter. Very big fan of his work. Love that he's kind of like the guy that does everything in a film. I mean, he does the writing, he does the directing, he does the musical score, and he kind of works with the people that he continues to work with the people that he works with usually. And that's kind of a good sign for a director, that you can come through an enormous, film that took like so like much energy, and go with that and then work on another film together. Polanski, I love Polanski. I love the Normancy of his films, like Rosemary's Baby. And that just like trying to make it like all normal and like, this is what's, um, Kubrick. Oh my gosh. I mean, Cronenberg, like I like a lot of stuff. So
What do you think about Spielberg, right? And his ability, it would seem, to kind of have insight into the phenomena, right? I don't know if you follow what is it, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, if you've seen that.
yeah, I love that film. I actually really like. Um, that I would say is definitely burned into my mind. When I think of my like childhood years of just that, watching that on a TV screen at home and hearing that do 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 do. I mean, how can you get any, more like creative, artistic vision than that, so but as far as like the phenomena, I mean, I haven't really had experience with like craft, so I don't really know if that would be I don't know. I've heard like other things from other people, and like in comparison, I would probably say that maybe that is close, but I don't know. Again, I don't really know how much like research he's done to prepare for making films like that. So I don't know if he talked to a lot of, abductees, or, study the literature about that, or, and I'm not sure if you know that either, because I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's been rumored, that he's had people that may have been within the government that kind of gave him heads up on certain, directions to take the film. And that's it, and within ufology and within this community, it's one of the lores. We don't know if it's true, but it does still seem to hold up the test of time. We're talking about 50 years ago, and it really still stands up to cases that people observe today. So that's just one of the things I wanted to lean into because, that's probably one of the biggest directors out there that I know of, and he was compelled to do something with the phenomena. How close do you see the bridge between what you do with horror and then potentially stories that could be told about the phenomena?
I'm not really sure that it's kind of a hard line, because I know that there's so much in the media that does bring about like the negativity about those things, and I don't know that I would want to like stay with the narrative of horror if I were to make a film about phenomenon like that. Unless it was like just a different, well, if we're talking about like UFO phenomenon, that is, to clarify.
Yeah, and I'm sorry. Let me clarify, because I'm speaking, and this is the thing too, because in this community you often get in the habit of speaking jargon, and this essentially is some of ufology jargon. So when I say phenomena, I mean things like this covers aliens and UFOs. This covers paranormal activity, spirits, entities. This also covers cryptids like Bigfoots, shadow people, things of that nature. So all those things. So maybe explain it that way. There's a lot of, characters that you often find from this ufology world that are depicted in horror films, like Shadow Man, for instance, is in a lot of things.
So I think, to answer your question, how I would deal with that and how I like to deal with things like in general, when I write film, is that I always go back to the experience of the character. Like, I always take it from that perspective and have the audience see things through their eyes, instead of like putting a spin on it, So if I develop a character that, is experiencing these things, whether it's like a haunted house or something like that, I wouldn't want to center so much on the actual phenomenon or the fact that somebody got murdered in the basement or something, or something crazy like that, like some cray like that. I would take it from like, how is this experience affecting the character, like the main characters, or the main characters, like the family that moves into the house, or whoever it is, or whatever is being experienced by whoever it is, and not so much let it resonate with, or not resonate, but not so much have it be focused on the phenomena itself, but rather how the phenomena affects
the person
in the story.
The character.
I think is more, because you can't, it's really hard unless you take it from the experience of the phenomenon. Like, the UFO has just landed, so we're gonna center on the aliens and what they see, or the ghosts, or how they're like, gosh, hey Fred, there's some new people that moved in here. We don't like them, or something. So
pretty much. And the thing is, there's a lot of creepy crawlies that are, there's, I could take you down a long list. I mean, I'm learning them as I go myself, but I've come across some of the most interesting things that people say they have encountered. Things like a dog man, if you can envision that, which you would think is a werewolf. A dog man, right? What you would think is a werewolf,
like Anubis, or
like a upright walking canine. A lot of people have talked about seeing things like that, and it just seems like, and I don't know if it's subconsciously the directors, but I think the thought process, if I'm a director, I would think things through. So I'm not going to say that they're not thinking about it, but it seems that directors often include a lot of these characters in their films, and it just, maybe it's just coincidence. I don't know, but you often see a lot of these same characters in these films. So there's a lot of things that we could really go into. I know one thing that I saw when I went and checked out your page is that you had done a film on Halloween, the season of the witch specifically.
Yes.
I want to go ahead and have you talk about that, because that's where, when I watched that, I watched the directing style, the cinematography, and I was like, yeah, okay, I really get it, right?
Okay.
So if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and talking about that for a minute here.
Oh, cool. Well, thank you. And were you able to sit down and watch it yet, or just kind of like through it?
Yeah,
really?
yeah.
Cool.
I said I got probably about a third of the way through it, and then I reached out to you. I was like, I got to talk to her.
Okay. Well, cool. So the whole thing about the Halloween 3 genre, and I will tell you, Halloween 3 was the very first Halloween installment that I saw when I was a kid. And I saw it in the theaters, and I saw it with my sister and my family when we lived in downtown Detroit. We probably went to see it at like the Adams Theater or one of those theaters that's no longer there. But one of the biggest things that really attracted me to that film was the Celtic lore. Like the fact that, I mean, I had never even heard of Michael Myers. Like I didn't know anything about the stuff that came before that. So I was really, really drawn in and pulled in by that. And I was like, wow, this is really amazing. And I remember I went to go see it. I think I drove my family like nuts because I wanted to go see it like every weekend. And they were like, oh my gosh, again. And so I went to see it like several times in the theater. And it was just, I love the music. I love the style, the colors. And it's the first of the Halloween films that is actually really about Halloween. I mean, all the other ones are just about like the babysitter and, you know, the guy with the mask and she's alone and all this other stuff. And not to say that that's bad or anything, but it's completely different. And, you know, it's very different from that. But what kind of started me on the third channel was that, so I used to live in the desert. I used to live in Rosamond, which is outside of Lancaster. And for some reason, I had this weird dream like one night, and I really get into dreams, and I like to journal about my dreams. And I think of that as kind of like phenomenon too, because I kind of like to interpret them and try to figure them out. But one night I went to bed and I had this dream, and I woke up and I was like, it really struck me. It kind of hit me. I was like, wow, like did I just what was that? And I like grabbed from my like notebook and like started writing down. I have like a whole notebook of this, and like had to really kind of get in there and try to figure out like, okay, well, what else was in this dream? Because the only thing I really remember that I think I wrote like the first sentence that I wrote in this notebook was a dark Willy Wonka story with the Halloween 3 Silver Shamrock Factory. And that was just about it. And then I kind of like had to like go back in there and kind of like, you know, flesh it out and write a little bit more. And, you know, it's just very interesting too, like how it kind of came together, because I actually moved up here to Eureka to make that film after living in the desert. So I was like, I want to really make this film, and I want to make it in the place where it was shot. Unlike a lot of other fan films, I want it to be unique. I want to incorporate the factory as it is now, which is wonderful that we filmed there, because like a little bit later after we filmed is when like the really bad like earthquake happened. And so they wouldn't even really, I mean, we had the film practically like across the street, or we had the film like in a section that's kind of like near the tail end of it, where there wasn't a guard fence, because it's like, well, what is that? You know, why would that would be in front of Silver Shamrock in the narrative of this film? So, you know, there was a lot of like piecing around, like, you know, how are we going to do this? But it was really such an honor to film there, and film in other parts of Loleta in California, in Northern California, you know, and they've got some really great, like scenery here too. Like we shot, I think it was Table Bluff, the scene where Jessica Kelly is having like the flashback of like her past life. And I mean, you take a look at that and you compare that to like Ireland. I mean, it's very, very similar. So we really wanted to incorporate that Celtic, you know, lore feel. But as I was starting to write it, like I only had maybe like 17 pages, and I was showing it around to people. I was like, what do you think? What do you think? And they're like, well, if you really want to make this film, Michelle, it's going to have to be a little bit longer than 17 pages. So I, went back in and like, did some more writing with it. But I will say that there was this one spot, like right at the beginning, that I was really having a hard time writing. And I'm very much into like meditation and stuff like that. So I had like one night I was like, okay, I got to get this done. Because I can't write the rest of the story without figuring this out. And it was the part, I don't want to know how much like detail you want me to go into it, but what's that?
Yeah, that was like no spoilers. Yeah.
Yeah. No spoiling. But I had to figure that out, because I was like, I can't really get past that until I, so I finally, after like a lot of like, just kind of like going to the source, if you will, like I figured it out, and it like hit me, and I was like, oh my gosh, how come I just didn't think of this in my waking, like, or, when I was just walking down the street or something, but I don't know. So there we have it, the third channel. And, yeah, so I'm really, really happy I'm happy like a lot with how it turned out, but there's some things I'm looking back like, oh man, I really wish I could fix this, or I wish I could fix some things with the sound or whatever. But at the end of the day, filmmakers don't finish a film, they just abandon them. So
yeah, it's the same way in music as well. It comes a point you got to cut it off. You got to let it, put it out into the world, let it go. You can't keep babying it and trying to fix all this and that. So totally understand exactly what you mean there. And Halloween is a great one to pick. If I was going to attempt to do something, but it's I'm a big fan of Halloween, and it's just strange that you picked a season of The Witch. What was behind that thought process?
Again, I'm going to go back to that dream, because, I had always kind of like had it in the back of my head, like, gosh, I'd really like to do something a little bit John Carpenter-ish, but I never really knew what until it kind of hit me. But I just love that. And, I love the whole aspect of the Celtic, like ancient witchcraft. And, I think Deborah Hill, who, had a part in the original, I think she called Halloween 3 like witchcraft and like the computer age or something. And I was like, wow, that's really something. I mean, people don't really think about like that kind of stuff, so that was very brilliant, very, very brilliant on her part.
Yeah, and in that one, I'm trying to remember, that's the one where Michael Myers did not appear in that film. Is that correct?
Right,
Okay.
exactly.
It was like the android guys were after the kids. Yeah. That was also, I remember they put the masks on, and then they were peeling their face, and you kind of have a little homage to that on your film, which is awesome as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was going to say that we actually have a couple of people that were in the original Halloween 3 season of The Witch in the third channel. We have Wendy Westberg, who played the morgue or like technician or something like that. Toxicology agent, or I don't know what these medical terms are. She was the one that was in the office when Dan Chalice went in, and she had the car parts, and she was like, I don't really know if these are car parts, but can you get down here? And then she gets the drill in the head. That was her. And then of course we have Brad Shatner, who played Little Buddy, who was the kid who had...
Hold it right there, Michelle. We're going right to break real quick here on the Spaced Out Radio and the After Hours Radio Show. With me, your host, Mr. Rob G, and our guest tonight, Michelle Blasky, filmmaker. And she's done Halloween, one of my favorites. We're going to talk some more about that when we come back from the break. You guys don't go anywhere. Right here in the After Hours Radio Show, Spaced Out Radio. All right, we are clear, and we are on break here for 5 minutes. So if you need to do anything, you can go ahead and run and do it, and we'll be here waiting for you.
Okay.
All right, and I'll take her off real quick, guys, as we get ready to get in some good stuff. Halloween. I don't know how you guys feel about Halloween. Michael Myers is definitely one of my favorite slashers. Freddy Krueger is in there too. So is Jason Voorhees. Scary, scary guys. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and I'm going to watch Season of the Witch, and then I'm going to watch Michelle's film right afterwards. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. So that should be awesome. And Rich Buddy, thanks for coming on in. Appreciate you showing up tonight. Bigfoot Dwarf, appreciate you showing up. I see you asked a question. I did go ahead and pin that question, and we will ask later on in the show. Who else is here? Amy Crabtree, I see you out there, Amy. Red Storm, hi, Red Storm. Let's see. Bijan, is that Bijan? Bijan Bain. Appreciate you coming on in. Jessica S., I see you. Thanks for coming on in. Let's see. J True Seeker, thanks for showing up. All right. Yeah, so now that we're during the break here, so we try, obviously we could get back into conversation. We want to save it for the radio, so when we come back from break. But how have you been doing? How about that? How have you been doing lately?
Oh, good.
Good. How was your New Year?
It was a new year. I didn't really do too much. I mean, I just kind of like chilled and, made some, made some kind of like resolutions to myself on like some personal stuff and, get ready to do some good stuff and all that good thing. Are we on the air now, or are we?
We are still in front of YouTube audience right now.
Okay. I just didn't know or not.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then we'll be back in about a minute, about 2 minutes here.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, I'm still kind of like getting my feet wet to see like how this works. So it's almost kind of like a little radio station where you take the break.
Yes, exactly. Dave likes to say it's behind the scenes. You're seeing behind the scenes of a live radio show.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the YouTube audience, all this stuff we're doing now gets cut out before we send this over to radio. So they get in between the music bumpers is what they get. Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really do all that much for like the new year. I'm packing because I'm about to go to school. So
nice.
So how was yours?
It was actually pretty good. We focus a lot on this subject in this community. There's been a lot going on with these drones, these crazy drones that have been.
Oh God, yes.
Yeah. So that's a whole thing. We'll get into that,
and maybe even touch on that because I'd like to hear your opinion on that.
Yeah, and I know you had a story, an encounter that you may have had potentially. Your friends, Deb Shakti.
Oh yeah. We've had a few sessions so far.
Okay, and so we'll get into all that stuff there, and
Mhm.
So we got about 45 seconds.
Now, I'm just curious, was that you playing the music to the intro?
Yeah, it
Or
plays. It's on a timer. It plays automatically, so it keeps us.
I mean, not like live time, but is that your material?
Oh no! This is Bumblefoot.
It sounded like Rage Against the Machine, but I wasn't sure if it was
In
like an
the
independent
intro.
artist.
A lot of people say that it's an independent
Yeah.
artist. Yeah. I'll send you the information on them.
Okay.
But they're awesome. I use them more than once. So here we go. Coming back. All right, everyone. Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. Jumping right back into the conversation here with Michelle Blasky. She's an author, or she's a filmmaker, maybe an author too, but she's into horror. We've been talking about horror for the last half hour. If you missed any of that, jump into archives. They're absolutely free. YouTube.com/@spacedoutradio, where you can catch up on what you missed as we jump back into the conversation here. So, yeah, are you working on anything now? Do you have any ideas on where you're going next?
Yeah, so there is something that I am working on. I can't really talk too much about it just because I have to make sure that I secure the idea for it first. Because I don't want to be like, oh, that's a great, and then somebody's like, oh, that's a really great idea, and we have a lot of money right now, so we're gonna make that right now before you do, because that's a really great idea.
Yes.
So
Good stuff. One of my I went in for acting as a young kid, high school.
Oh, cool.
And I got in there, and I thought, okay, this is gonna be easy peasy. I get in there, and this was ninth grade, and there were just the level that some of these kids were at as far as acting just blew me away. It was, all the improvisation and things like that. Did you ever go to acting classes, or was that
did.
part of your growing up? Okay.
I did. I did have a few acting classes actually, and I'll let you know they make it look easier than it really is, because it's like, I mean, I do a lot of background stuff too. I've been on assignments with like central casting. I've done like independent stuff, and that type of thing. But I am terrible at memorizing lines. Like I can do all the other stuff. I can walk through the airport okay. I can do, stuff like that. But I'm just like, when I have to memorize something in a script, and I don't know if it's ADHD or what it is, but it's hard. But I commend people who could do that, and I too have had that experience with people that were, some would be a little bit lower in their skills, and some people were like really, really like oh, did you go to like some other school before you went to kindergarten, or not kindergarten, but
Right.
like where did you study, but
Who is one of your favorite horror actors or actresses, if you had to pick one?
God, that is really hard. You're giving me a good question. It's been a long time. Like, I normally get into like the habits of watching movies over and over again, but lately for the past few years, I've been watching movies just like on a regular basis, like, and not really going back too much to like rewatch things. I mean, obviously Jamie Lee Curtis. I mean, that's definitely one of my favorite. Yeah. Isabella Rossellini is phenomenal. I loved her in Blue Velvet. I'm not a really big fan of like really popular actors like Tom Cruise. Like, I mean, you'll never hear me say, oh, I really like Tom Cruise and that type, it's like,
yeah.
But
one of the more not B level, but just more the underground actors, the raw talent.
Right.
So,
I'm more into that type. In fact, if you were to like, throw some names out, I'd be like, oh my gosh, yeah, I like that one. But
if I had to pick one, I'm a and I don't know if this necessarily would be considered acting, but I'm a Robert Englund fan. I just like
oh,
Robert Englund. You know what I mean? And I think that his comedy and just the way that he was able to bring that to the role, I think nobody can compare with that. They had the new Nightmare on Elm Street, and I just boycotted it because it was just not what I wanted. You know what I mean? It just didn't
the
fulfill.
new one, like, I mean, they went to places that I did not want to go to. And it's like, okay, I mean, I know that some of the premise in the movie is supposed to be about that aspect, but I don't want to know all that. I don't want to know.
Oh my gosh! And I tried because I'm gonna tell you, I was on a 3-way call, literally, maybe 2 months ago, with myself, my mother,
Mm-hmm.
and my brother, and we were all talking because my brother is also a big Halloween fan, and we were rating the movies. We were arguing back and forth about which one was the best and what order do they go, and we brought up articles online and other opinions and things of that nature. And we were getting into the one that I picked. This is the one that I ended up picking. I picked Halloween. I liked the remake. I liked the was it Rob Zombie?
Rob Zombie, yeah.
So Rob Zombie, I liked his version of Halloween. What did you think about that?
I have, to be honest, I think his version of Halloween as a standalone, and he had a vision. Like, and that's what I like about it. He had a vision. And I mean, like, I'm a big stickler when I watch Halloween, like the continuation, like the sequels. Like, I'm thinking like, oh, I really want it to be like this or something like that. Cause I had like all the feels in the first one, or I had all the feels in the second one. And then like the fourth or whatever, I didn't, whatever, for example, not Halloween, but just in general. But he had like a vision, and I think that gets like underplayed a lot, because a lot of people will say, well, that's not Halloween, that's not, but I mean, it's his vision. It was what he did as an artist, so I respect him for that. I have to be honest though, I didn't really get so much into it, like. And I tried rewatching it like a few years later, and I couldn't really get into it for whatever reason. But I'm not, and again, I'm not saying that there's anything bad or wrong with it. It's just, it's like hit or miss sometimes. So if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I'm a fan of the whole, just the series. I'm a Saw fan as well. Like if there are box sets that I would go get, it would be Saw, it would be Nightmare on Elm Street, it would be Halloween. What do you think draws people into horror? Like, what do you think the love affair is with people in horror? Why do we want to see it so much?
I think it's the same across the board with anybody that watches a movie. Like, I think that we as the audience want to see how people get through a problem. It's psychology, like I think. And for some people, that's drama, it's sci-fi, it's romance, it's thrillers, it's horror. And I think in particular with horror, I think sometimes it's people who have had, and this isn't to say everybody across the spectrum, but I think maybe some people have had some experiences, and they're trying to work those scary experiences out and see how these people in this movie coped with it. If that makes sense.
It does. It does. But I know some people that just like to go to see bodies get chopped up. and it seems to be the thing that they like. It's the thing that draws, like, they're upset if they walk out of that theater and the body count was very.
Okay. And you make a good point. You make a good point, because I think that there is also, in that genre of horror, there is also that underlying, it's almost like, man, I don't know. It's hard. It's hard for me to explain it. And it's one of those things that I'm probably going to have to go back and, like, after this show, like, gosh, you had a really great question. I wish I would have answered that better. But I think we as human beings, we have a innate, like, we have emotions that we suppress. And when we watch films like that, it's like a release. It's like, we can't, I mean, unless you're like John Wayne Gacy or some serial killer, you're not going to go pick up an axe and, go murder your boss because they didn't give you enough hours or something, or you're mad at somebody. So it's kind of therapeutic to watch something happen to somebody else, because you can almost kind of like, live through that vehicle, if you will, like, of something happening to somebody that you don't like.
So it scratches an itch. It scratches.
Yeah, I think so. And then there's always the, people like that are out on a date that they want, like, they're going to go to the drive-in or they're going to the movie theater, and they're hoping that, the other person is going to get scared and they're going to be able to cuddle or something. I think there's aspects of that too. So, I mean, I think horror movies and the genre has come through like decades and decades of that, where people will, I'm going to let you know, I went to see Terrifier 3. This brings up a great, I love Terrifier. That's one of my favorite too. Okay. So I went to see Terrifier 3, and I'm going to let you know, I'm going to bring this up because everybody was coming in the movie theater and everybody's waiting for the movie. I always get there early so I can get my popcorn and my drink and my, and find a seat. For some reason, I was having a hard time finding a seat in this little theater that they had it in, because it wasn't, I don't know even how many seats were in there, but it was packed by the end. By the time that the movie was about to start, like, there were people coming in. But as I was sitting there waiting, this little old couple comes walking in, and I'm like, okay. And they sat down and they start talking, and I can hear it. It's with an earshot. I'm not trying to listen, but I'm hearing it. And they're talking about, like, when my wife, when she passed, and blah, blah. And it's like, oh my God, they're on a first date. Wow. This is a first date movie. This is not appropriate for a first date movie, in my opinion. But hey, I mean, I don't know. Maybe they're interesting people. But
I was just going to say, it's two things that entice both individuals, and they found love through it. What's more beautiful than finding love?
Exactly. Terrifier, Art the Clown brought them together.
Now, I had the pleasure of going, because I'm in Southern California. I had the pleasure of, we have a friend of the show. He's a director as well, named Ian Holt. He's produced movies, and at this particular time, he had produced a movie called From the Shadows. That had Keith David in it, had a couple of other good name people in it, and I was lucky enough to come on behalf of Spaced Out Radio and kind of do the red carpet thing. And so, I'm filming all the guests coming in, and we go in, and it was a unique experience because it was the first time that the actors were seeing the film. So I was able to sit in the theater, small theater like you mentioned, with the director of the film, all the other behind the scenes guy.
Wow, so it's kind of like a premiere kind of thing.
Premiere, exactly.
Yeah,
And so
okay.
it was awesome to kind of see them in the theater looking for that response to the film. You know what I mean? And it's a unique experience. I don't think that it can, I know you would understand that, but for someone who hasn't attended a premiere with the stars of the movie, it's a pretty awesome thing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think people, when they hear about that kind of thing, like they have ideas in their head about how it's going to play out. And probably what they don't know is like some of the actors in there are like, I don't really like that shot of me, you know, I really wish that the director would have, you know, and so it's a little bit, you know, so it's very interesting. But yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Those things are always like fire, you know. I love going to things like that when I can. I'm trying to get a premiere for my thing too for the third channel, which we might have later on this month, but possibly, I don't know.
It's awesome. And you're in Southern California, so if you want to throw an invite, I'm just right over around the corner, and I would love to come on out there and support
cool.
too. Now I did want to ask you this. We have about 8 minutes till we go to break.
Sure.
There's one, because I'm really a huge horror fan. I really am a huge horror fan. And
awesome.
I love like the horror of the 80s, 70s,
Me too.
80s, 90s. Do you see the difference in what's going on today in horror, or is it just me? Is it because I'm getting older, or is there, what is the disconnect? And if you were able to explain that.
I think it's a lot of things, and I don't even know where to begin. It's like, again, we go back to the problem being in the writing. And there are a lot of things that I start watching, particularly on what is it called? Tubi. Where there's a lot of like, and don't get me wrong, like it's a great place to check out and at least see like what people are doing, other filmmakers. But there's things that like I kind of feel like I'm running a film festival or something because I put the film on, I watch it like 5 minutes. I'm like, no, you know, like you're ripping the VHS out of the like, okay, let's watch this other one. But it's just, I don't know. I think with a lot of things that are happening, the way that people are living their lives, I think that's what it comes down to, because right now we're all social media. Like, I've never met you in person. I don't know if I will ever meet you in person, but we're meeting here in this space. And there's a lot of people that I've met like this, you know, and I think, and everybody, you know, right? Because it's like a face on a screen, and social media, and, you know, I think the disconnect is that if you're sitting in a room with somebody, you're going to have uncomfortableness. Like there's going to be, I think people don't like to be uncomfortable. And as an artist, you have to get comfortable being comfortable. You have to get comfortable being uncomfortable for an artist. But as a human being, you also have to get uncomfortable to learn, I think. And when you set across from people, whether it's just one person in you or whether it's a group of people and you're at a party, it's like people don't do this anymore. You know, I mean, rarely do people go out to shows or, you know, like I was just at an open mic night a couple nights ago, and I didn't really talk to anybody except for the owner. People were wasn't very many people, but I think that there's like a disconnect with how people interact with each other, and the newer generation doesn't really, I feel like, know that. Like they don't know. It's almost like trying to get somebody to act. And when you've never had any experience, either you're a natural at it and you know timing, or you don't have that and you don't know how to, like, you know, you don't know how to get there with somebody. You don't know how to connect. And I think that falls with the writing. Like when people are sitting down on their writing, and they don't really know how to write a character, or, you know, you're watching something on TV or, you know, your internet or whatever, like a movie, or you're at the movie theater, bouncing around here. But sometimes the delivery or sometimes something that somebody is saying on screen could be a lot better, or it doesn't make sense. And it's like, well, that's the kind of thing that's going to take me out of something. Like some of these movies will open up with like a shot of somebody already dead on the floor. It's like, how am I interested in that? Like, what is that? If you were to maybe like have like a faded radio in the background and like some kind of atmospheric thing, or like kind of like write something into that and then lead up to it, then I might be like, oh, okay, who is that person? Like what happened to them? I'm not feeling it. So I think the problem is what it, I mean, in film, of course, is a reflection of who we are. And it's a reflection of who we are in society. And some of the things, even if we go back in the decades and look at some of the films that were made in certain decades, we can kind of like figure out like, oh yeah, that's why they made that film, because this was going on in the world. And we kind of like have that to go back on. But now we're just all stuck in a box, and we don't have really too much to go on.
And I do feel like that. Because I tried, obviously they say as you get older, then you're the get off my lawn person, right? So it's just you not understanding and realizing what the kids like, and I don't think it's that. Because when I look at the premise for a lot of these horror movies, a lot of them are related to social media. The killer is texting people through social media and posted something really strange online, and this person gave their last their dying words in an Instagram live, or and I think it's just because I think what it is horror from the 80s and the 90s. There was, as far as we didn't have a lot of technology, so a lot of stuff was still unknown. Like what happens if you stay in the woods too long? We don't really know. What happens if you go really deep? Well, now you just send the drone over and take a picture of whatever is over there. So I think it feels like maybe all the mystery has been taken out of it. One thing I hate, though, is we get ready to go to break here, because I want to get to your experience in the second hour. Sure. What do you think about remakes? How do you feel about everything being remade? It seems like everything is being remade.
I think that it's a way for companies to make money. That's the only thing, is that they're relying on a name brand, and sometimes people can take it in a direction that's really good. Like we were talking earlier about Rob Zombie's Halloween. Like that is in itself a piece of art. And I, a lot of people will go see a film because there is that title attached. And then they'll be disappointed that they see some movie and it's nothing like what they, although I will say, like movies like Blade Runner, for example, were freaking amazing, or Dune, those ones were really great. But a lot of the other ones, I'm just like, oh man, there's definitely is something, there's a disconnect there.
It felt for me, and because, like I said, I'm an artist myself, so when it goes into remaking something, you're not really using your abilities to create something. You're just remaking something. So it just it felt for me for a long time. Every time I turned around, it was a remake of this, remake of that. And it just seemed like maybe people were running out of ideas in the industry. It's like, are people really running out of ideas to where they just grab for a safe remake?
Well, I will tell you about an old saying, and I think it comes from Shakespeare. I think, and I can't quote it like verbatim, but I can tell you the gist of it. And that is that pretty much everything that you can ever think of has already been written.
Yeah.
It's kind of like up to us as artists to recreate it and remold it and make it into something that is unique and different from whatever it is, because we don't want to make, that would be like, I mean, then it would become the Andy Warhol of film.
Conversations that move.
Exactly. We're going to jump more into more conversation with our guest tonight, Michelle Blasky, right after the break. Don't go anywhere.
The only place where you can own the night. Spaced Out Radio.
Spaced Out Radio. You've tuned your dial to the right frequency.
All right, clear. In this break, we are off camera, and I got a surprise for the audience out there. New music. Check it out. Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio after hour number 2 with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. We have about 30 seconds left before we come back from radio. Emperor Penguin, appreciate you coming on in. I see you showing up, Flat 6. Also, Jerry Elmore, thanks for coming on in. Let's see. Welcome to the show. Everybody as well, any questions, definitely put them in caps so we can ask them at the end of this hour. We got about 5 seconds to go, and here we go. All right, everyone, welcome back to Spaced Out Radio after hour number 2. Number 2 with me, your host, Mr. Rob G, and we are back with our guest, filmmaker Lynn Blasky, talking a lot of stuff about a lot of horror stuff. Really creepy movies that I love and you probably love too. Remember, if you missed any of the show, hop in the archives, youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio, and catch up on what you missed as we jump right back up into the conversation here. So, Michelle, we talked online prior to the show, and you had made me aware of an experience that you had in Michigan, you stated. So I wanted to kind of talk about that because as you tell this story, I think people out there are going to be able to connect some dots and they'll relate to what it is that you're saying here. So if you wouldn't mind starting out.
Absolutely. So yeah, this was my family is originally from Michigan. We're from Delray in Michigan, in Detroit. And basically I had gone to community college. And then after I graduated from community college, I kind of stuck around in that area for a little bit, which was in Lansing. But I remember that I'm trying to remember, this was around, I want to say like about 2008, I want to say. I'm not 100% on the year. But I was living in a town outside of Lansing. So it was past East Lansing, and it was either Hazlitt or Okemos. If you guys look at the map and you're like, oh, I know where that is. So one afternoon, I was living at this one place, and there was a park that was kind of like a nature center, but it was kind of a big like forest kind of area with like lots of trails and things like that. And I was like, okay, it's, I think I left like my house at like maybe it was directly across the street, by the way, at maybe like, I don't know, 3 or 4 in the afternoon. And this was like during like the summer time. So it wasn't like it was going to get dark real early or anything like that. So I had plenty of time to go over there and like, chill out, hang out, walk on the trails and whatnot. So I'm like walking along and I'm like admiring how beautiful the day is. And like, I think I sat down to like maybe meditate or like just take in, just relax or whatever. And then I don't really remember like exactly what happened after that. And it's weird because like this whole time I don't want to jump around, but like this whole time I thought that the experience that I had was later, but the experience actually like started like before that. Like the experience started when I like sat down when it was still light out. Because I mean, like logically speaking, like I can't figure out like how it would have happened, after that or before that or whatever. So as I was like meditating or whatever I was doing, that was like the last thing that I remember. The next thing I remember, I'm standing in this field and it's dark. It's dark outside at this point. And I'm staring across the field and there's these like, I'm noticing like in the, like way in the back, and some of it's like covered by like brush and stuff like that. that these like orbs, like 2 or 3 of them, like out there, you know, like just floating around, like on like ground level. And at first I'm like, you know, are they flashlights, or are people over there with like, you know, and I was like watching them, and the way that they moved, and you probably will know what I'm talking about. I don't know your age, but like, remember those old video cameras, like that took like VHS recordings?
Oh yeah.
And when you would, like, if you were outside and you were filming somebody's house, hopefully it was your own, you weren't like, you know, filming. Anyways, and it would leave like you'd see like the light of the house or something, and it would leave like a little trail. You know, remember that little trail, like a little light trail, because it's being captured on video, and like the video cells or whatever are doing whatever they're doing, and magnetizing the tape and all this other stuff that happens with tape. That's what I was kind of like seeing, was when these things were like moving, they kind of reminded me of when like bees go from one flower to another to like pollinate. And when they were moving, they had like that streak, that little like light streak. And I was like, what is that? And as I'm like, you know, standing there, all of a sudden I see like a light like above me coming like closer and closer. And it's another one of these, well, I couldn't really tell that it was just an orb or whatever. My first inclination was that it was a helicopter, to be honest with you. And I'll be honest, like I kind of got a little bit freaky, because I was a little bit freaked out because it was after dark. And I thought, you know, is there like a curfew or something? Am I not supposed to be here after dark? I thought it was a helicopter, and I thought maybe they didn't want people in the park. I mean, I have no idea what, that was the only thing that came to my mind when I saw it. So without really knowing like 100% that it was, I mean, I knew it was weird because I didn't hear anything like, but again, I didn't know if it was an authoritative, you know, thing coming and being like, you know, you need to be out of the park. You know, you can't have people in the park after dark. So as it was coming down and it was bright, here I am standing up and I waved. And that was the last thing that I remember. Wow. I mean, as it happened, like that was like I waved and that was it. The next thing that I remember was me, like I was walking down the trail to go out the entrance, and I was kind of shaky, not shaky, but like kind of like when you're kind of like waking up from a dream or whatever, and like foggy, but you're like, and then the memorization of like where I was and what I was doing, and then like, oh, I'm at the park, you know. And in the distance there was a guy that was like just hanging out like by the fence, and that scared me, you know, being a lady and being out at night, because I was like, okay, I'm just gonna you know, walk past the dude, and you know, didn't say anything to him, he didn't say anything to me. Quickly walk past, and as I'm like walking across, waiting for the traffic to go by, because I have to cross the street to get to the apartment building that I was living in at the time, and I was like, it was starting to come back to me, and like I had that night, I went back home and I wrote in, I wish I still had it, but I don't. I wrote in a journal, and I drew everything. Like I drew, like I know that there was, besides the orbs, like it was, like I was trying to remember when I was like writing it, you know, like when you're finally like back at your place and you're like seated down, like, you know, you're thinking in your mind, like, okay, what happened, you know? And by the way, it was like nighttime. Like I looked at the clock when I came in and it was like 10 something. and I went out there at like 4. So I was gone for like a long time. Like I wasn't just, moseying around out there. But I do remember like in the drawings, I drew like some kind of like triangular thing underneath the orbs. But I don't know exactly where that was coming from. Like, I don't know if I did see it or if I was like including it because I'm thinking like, oh yeah, that's probably how it, I was second guessing myself or whatever. And it wasn't until like years later, jump and fast forward, when I was living in the desert and in Rosamond, and I was like, it's kind of funny because I had just attained a lot of stuff that I wanted. Like I always wanted to live in the desert. And so I was living in the desert and, I was working, I was doing this, I was doing that, a lot of things cool. But then like I was kind of like going, I was taking a walk outside, like in the desert, like going through like, these trails and stuff. And I was thinking to myself, okay, like I've got this, I've got that, like, and I just asked myself, and I kind of like asked it to the universe too, to be honest. I was like, what's next? Like what's next for myself if I've attained this part of it? And then that's when I kind of saw, Dr. Greer stuff and, and I was like, okay, what is this? Cause I was like thinking to myself like, oh yeah, I really want to, I wish I could go back and remember more of that event that I just mentioned. And then I also want to, it would be great to like try to communicate with that. Cause I don't know how I did that in the first place. Right. Cause I mean, when things happen to us, we don't sometimes really know, like how did we initiate that, and
right.
Then like I started like watching these things and, I found that video and like, I think it was, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind or something like that came out around that time. And I was like, okay, and I was watching this stuff and I was watching like the CE5 contact and stuff like that. And I was like, that's what's next. I was like, that's it. That's what I want to do. That's the direction I want to like explore for myself. And, after that, you can only really go, so far from Dr. Greer to Deb's Shoxy, right? And then that's kind of like how I found her and I started working with her. And the first couple sessions I had with her had nothing to do with UFOs. They were sessions that I had other questions about, like, other things. But I think it was maybe around the second or the third, session that we had. I was like, I'm trying to answer this question because the other day, and this is me telling her, I was like, during the session, I was like, I was meditating and I came to the realization that event came back to me. Like I was questioning things about it. Like I was like, I had thought that the event started when I looked up and it was already nighttime and I saw the craft come down. Like that's when I thought it began. But then it wasn't until like I started meditating and started like figuring it out that it actually happened, like, maybe like, I don't know, 45 minutes or so after I got into the park. Cause that's when I like sat down and I don't remember anything after that until all that stuff. But the stuff that she told me was that, and I think she's really great. She's wonderful. Yeah. She has a lot of insight and, what she came and told me was that for those hours that I was gone, it wasn't just like a few hours. Like that's what it was in like human years or whatever. But like on the quantum scale or whatever you want to call it, I'm still trying to figure this stuff out. I'm still like, I'm not 100% with it. but for those amount of hours, like I was gone like 10 years. And she told me that I did a lot of work with these people and with these, ET, and that they were, how did she say it? She said that they were artists too. Like they were like the collective or the group that I worked with was like into the arts, I guess, basically.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't really talked about this stuff like on, a live audience or something before. So I'm like trying to how do I say
You're
this?
doing great. You're doing great. You're hitting all the key points. Everyone understood exactly what you're talking about. When
Okay.
you say this. And it sounds like potentially like an abduction experience, missing time sort of situation where that would be the question to ask. I don't know if in that moment you were even thinking to see if how much time had passed, although you did reference that it had gotten dark during the whole experience, so that
Right.
indicates that there was some sort of extended time there. When you got this, so when you started going down that path and you get with Deb Shockley, we shout out to Deb Shockley. We love Deb's here, and
Oh yeah.
and she deals in quantum hypnotherapy, and I believe that's what you were doing with her. But
Right, it wasn't. I'm just gonna let you know it was a channeling session. It wasn't like the actual quantum hypnosis where she puts you under and you like that. I still want to do that. I do want to do, but I'm kind of leading up to it, So
yeah, so great. Yeah. You're actually taking me where I wanted to go anyway with this, because the next step for and for me, we're like it's wild. We're me and you were right at that same place, because my next step, and Debs has offered this to me on multiple occasions. She's promised me that the door is still open for it, and I just have to find the time to do it. But when you have evidence like that, you kind of want to go through with it so you can get the answers to what that was, right?
Right.
What do you think? It almost, obviously after talking to Debs, you could kind of put the pieces together that it sounds like an abduction experience. What do you think on that fact?
Yeah, definitely like, I'm just going to let you know right now, like, there was nothing negative about it. It did freak me out like at the time, because I was like, that missing time was what it was. Like, I didn't really know like what that was and where I went, it's almost like you were at a frat party and drank too much and woke up on somebody's roof or something the next day, right? But it's like, I know that they were there to help, and to help facilitate certain things in my life and my life's path. I really do believe that. And I think that a lot of things since then have kind of like put things into perspective. And I think she mentioned that, like, in our session, that it was kind of like the moment where, like, I kind of had communion with them, if you will. And like, my soul was kind of like, if you want to believe in a soul or whatever, like, I don't really know if I believe in a soul, but like, whatever we are, whoever we are, was kind of like aligned with that, and like my goals in life and like what I'm here for, which is the arts. And, so I think that it's probably like along those lines, I think, but I don't know 100%. I'm not an expert. So,
I've always thought, going through that whole thought process, and that's why I love talking to Debs often, because we get into the whole consciousness, spirituality part of this phenomena, and just kind of go down the rabbit hole. And I thought about some things myself, because the experience I had, I'm still kind of dealing with it. Like, I don't really know if there was more to it, or if I was supposed to come out of the experience with some new founded idea or information to relay. I think that's still where that regression piece comes in, where you go under and do that. That's why I'm going to do it. But kind of, when you look at the whole aspect of, these things, in a lot of cases, a lot of people say that they feel the same way. They didn't feel any sort of harm, or, that they were in harm's way in any way. I don't know, you know what I mean, how I would feel about that. I don't know if I've even been in that situation to know how that would feel, but I'll tell you what, it, especially what we're dealing with right now, when contact potentially is happening as we speak right now with the whole drone thing, which we'll jump in and talk about for a moment. But it's kind of like instant awakening for everyone. It's like you need to wake up. And even for you, even for someone who hasn't even realized they've had an experience like that, this is kind of like one of those awakening moments. So just spinning in the drones real quick before we go to break. What did you think about it? Just what were your thoughts on it?
I think that there's if we live through it, there'll probably be a movie about it. There's a lot of stuff, and I don't know if I think it's, like, there's a lot of ideas that I have about it, and some of them are maybe not so great. So I don't really know if I want to go into that little dark area on your show.
That's cool. That's cool. Don't worry about it.
I mean, honestly, I think that there's a lot of stuff that people are seeing, and I don't think it's just one thing. I'll just put it to you that way. Yeah. Like, I think that some of it's government. I think some of it could be, it's ET, obviously, anyways. But, I've heard a lot of different scenarios too, about why the government is doing that and stuff. And it's like, I don't know. And then there could be like weaponization of this stuff, and like that's maybe like what it's about. I don't,
See,
it's
and
it's definitely a rabbit hole. So,
and that's the thing, and that's why I'm so glad that I've actually gone through the subject a lot over the last month. Like, I've done shows where we're just really trying to break it down, trying to use logic, like what sounds logical, what makes the most sense. And I've come to a lot of the conclusions you've come to, where yes, some of this is definitely strange, some of it likely is man-made as well. But here would be, and this is kind of one of the things that I've been wanting to do as well for a long time, and I told Debs about this, is I wanted to put together CE5, a CE5 event where you have a group of people who are really great at CE5, and see if you could channel something. Because I would think if they are making an effort right now, if that's what's happening, then CE5 would probably be the perfect thing to use in this moment right now in order to kind of make that contact. So
right. What I'm trying to figure out is if it's reverse engineering. Like that's kind of like what I'm thinking. And then how do you tell if it's the government or if it's really ET? Like that's kind of like the throwback is what I'm, but I don't know. I mean, to me, it's like I think it's about communication. Like if you can somehow, if you do see, obviously if it's a drone, then it's a drone and you can see that it's a drone, then
right.
You don't need to like try to figure out, what it is. Because if it's a drone, then it's a drone. But if it is something that looks like it's ET and you're not really sure if it's ET, I would probably say try to communicate with it telepathically. Like, if you believe in that or whatever, and then see if you get any kind of like response. Like if it's a craft and it, you think a positive thought and you send it, and if it has that little glow to it,
goes out into the universe. And we'll talk more about that, because that's actually a great topic there when we come back from the break with our guest, Michelle Blasky. I'm Mr. Rob G. This is the After Hours Radio Show right here on spacedoutradio. You guys don't go anywhere. We got about 30 minutes left. Get your questions ready, and we will see you back here in just a minute. we are clear. And yeah, they definitely want to jump back into that. But I wanted to show you something because during this break, because we're not on radio, there was a video I had because you had mentioned orbs, and you mentioned something really not peculiar, but something that really lines up with what I think about this. And you said the orbs moved like bees going from flower to
Yeah.
flower, organic, right? Almost like something that's alive, right? And that's
Right.
kind of
Like
how I'm
energy.
describing. Yeah, like, but like an intelligence to it where it is moving purposefully, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
so I don't know if you see it. I'm going to show you this video because I captured orbs in our house here on the side house. Our ring cameras caught them. You couldn't see them with the naked eye, but they move in the same fashion. And I wanted to see if this is kind of what you were talking about here. So let me scroll to that video. Yeah, I've been lucky enough to catch a lot of phenomena, and
I never try to record anything. Like, I don't know why I don't, but I just don't.
yeah,
I guess because it's like it's the echo chamber, and it's like throwing it into the. It's like because I don't really know if other people's other stuff is like. I mean, not like your stuff is not right or like it's not real or anything, but.
yeah. No, I what I do if I'm lucky enough to capture anything, I throw it right out to the wolves because I want it picked apart, and I want to know the answer. I want to know the truth on what I'm looking at. You know, I I feel like it's this, but maybe it's that, and I'm open to it, and that's why I put it out there. But here's one of the videos if it'll come up here.
Ooh. Whoa, what kind of is it just like a little security camera?
Yeah, just a ring camera. And this triggered the camera. We got this like 6 different times, and you'll see this thing just going on about its business. And we go on in there and look at it, try to see if we can see it with our eyes. Could not see it.
Now that reminds me of something that I have seen that I would say that it's, how do I say this? I've seen something like that before, and I want to say it's like a pet that's passed, like, if that makes sense, because I've seen something like that before, like after a pet of mine passed and we saw something like that. But and then I see what you're saying with the trail.
The trail, one of the things you mentioned, and then also the meandering and the moving here and then moving there, and
right, it's an intelligence. It's like it's doing something. It had, like you said, it has a purpose.
Yeah. And I think what I've just been looking into it because there has been so many different orb sightings all around the world, even on ring cameras. If you go look up ring camera orbs, so many thousands. And this is one thing I keep pointing to because when I was looking into this, I was trying to just get more data on what it was, because I'm like, okay, it could be a spirit. Okay, it could be, something related to something extraterrestrial. But then I found a video where a dog was in front of a ring camera. It came right up to the ring camera for whatever reason, facing the camera, and the orb kind of went to the left, and he kind of moved his head a little bit, and then the orb zipped back the other direction, and he followed it with his eyes. So
and the dog followed it?
The dog followed it. So I'm like,
yeah.
Okay, animals can sense these things, even though we can't see them.
It's very interesting.
Then, there was another one where a guy was in a garage, and the intercom is on the ring camera. So he's talking through the intercom. He's looking at this thing on camera floating around the garage, and then he says something to it, and it reacts to his voice. And I was like, wow, okay. It just, is more data to kind of figure out what this is. Something that's sensitive to sound and something that can be seen by obviously ring cameras and animals. So there's definitely something to it. And I'm under the idea that these things are all over the place. Like these
Yeah,
orbs are everywhere.
I think that they are. I think that in truth, at some level, phenomenon like does resonate, does have a resonance with some type of like scientific thing. Like, I mean, it's not just things that people are imagining. I think that they're like physical things that are out there that we just don't know about. I mean, it's almost like if somebody sees some type of, animal or something that they've never seen, for example, or like something in the sea, like a sea creature or some type of thing that no one has yet to identify.
All right, we're coming back right now. All right, everybody, welcome back. Spaced Out Radio after hour 1.5, back with our guest, Michelle Blasky. I'm Mr. Rob G. You are tuning in to the After Hours Radio Show right here on Spaced Out Radio. And we've been talking about horror films. We've been jumping into the phenomena. We're going to do a little bit more of that. Remember, any of this conversation, you can't just rewind, or maybe you can, but hop in the archive, youtube.com/at Spaced Out Radio, where we have a plethora of options for you here. And kind of jumping right back into the whole drone situation. You were saying, and this is one of the things, they're still happening from what I understand. I've been watching the news. It's just not being covered as much. And from what I hear, there aren't as many in the sky, but they're still there. And so it feels like maybe, when I first looked at this, and everyone here knows this story, but as I looked at this, I looked at it as just drones initially. No ET, nothing ET.
Right.
And as time went along and things started to not make sense, and then answers weren't being given, and you started going down that logical thought path, and it kind of marked off a lot of things on the list that kind of left us with really only the two options being government or extraterrestrial. And my whole thought, and I was speaking to someone last week about this, and I'm like, okay, we as human beings believe that in these black projects, in these contractors, that they have created something so magnificent that is just beyond our understanding of what is capable in this world that we live in. Now, I'm under here's how I look at it. Maybe you could elaborate or kind of add to this, but I'm looking at the fact that human beings have only been flying, going back to the Wright brothers, for 122 years. That's one human lifetime, right? So I just don't feel like within that 100-year period that we have just jumped leaps and bounds from flying for only 3 seconds to all of a sudden now today we have reversed engineered ET craft that can defy gravity and things of that nature. More likely is that the extraterrestrials that we know are coming here possess that capability, and that we probably haven't figured it out. What do you think about that? Do you have any have you thought about that?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Like, I'm thinking that it probably is a lot of reverse engineering, that either a craft has, crashed or something and they were able to like kind of figure it out. I mean, I have no idea. I mean, it's a very interesting topic, and it's very interesting to try to like figure out, but at the end of the day, I don't know, and I don't know if anybody really knows that. And even the people that are working and making those things probably don't even know. They're like, oh, what are we making today, Jim? Like they don't know that this stuff has been written because there's a manual on a craft that they have in an old Air Force, hangar or something, Yeah,
there's a lot of people on both sides of the conversation when it comes to that. human beings are amazing. We're amazing creatures. I mean, even, look at yourself. You're an artist, you're a filmmaker, you create things out of thin air. You take things in your mind and you bring them into physical reality. And that's the thing with artists. And so human beings have been known to do amazing things. And yeah, maybe there's the sliver of possibility that we somehow are so amazing that we figured this out. But, I think if we, and I've said this the other day, but I think that if we don't, if we just assume that we have, then it takes away our it takes the attention away that would normally be there to really figure out what these things are, because we're just like, oh yeah, we probably built these, we probably have them in a black secret project, and there's nothing else to think about, no other conversation to have. Whereas what we're probably looking at, like 90% chance, is we're actually looking at extraterrestrial craft, because they came here in those. And so if they came here in those, is more likely we see their craft than it would be that we are in some lab somewhere and we just cracked the code and we too. And the only reason why I say that is just because, when we look at things that we have created that have come out to the public, there just isn't anything that points to, you know, that we've advanced in that way. We've done a lot. We got tablets, iPads, all that stuff, but it just anti-gravity though, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it certainly appears so. I mean, it's like, I mean, you're right. I mean, the timeline of when the Wright brothers made the first airplane and then all that to this, I mean, it doesn't really add up. I mean, it seems like, that it's more likely information has been given, or it is all been that. It's very interesting. And I think for whatever reason or intensive purpose, you also have to think about, like, if they did reverse engineer it, I would almost have to say that their intention is probably different than what we would hope for. I don't think that it's good intentions, but I don't know.
Well, when you say that, because I know you say you didn't really want to say, because it seems like it's taboo if you think that the aliens are here for evil things. But
no. Sorry, I wasn't saying that the aliens were evil or anything like that. I meant the government. I'm
okay,
sorry
yeah.
I'm sorry if I made that, if I didn't.
No. Fair play. The government is definitely evil. And yeah, their reasoning for why they would want to reverse engineer the craft, we know, would only be used for terrible things. So let's hope that they haven't reverse engineered. I guess that's a better way to look at it. Let's really hope that they haven't reverse engineered it, because like it wouldn't likely lend to any public benefit for the average person anyways if they did. So
I mean, it would make getting to work easier, but
if see, that's the slippery slope though, because if they do have the technology, if they figure it out, then it can't just get out there. You know what I mean? Like I don't even know if on the lowest level they could allow us to benefit from it, because then our adversaries also benefit from it, and they'll put it to work with nuclear weapons and all sorts of weird things that they've thought of how to use this tech. But so I'm just hoping that, I guess we haven't figured it out, because I think it would be pretty bad. It'd be a lot worse than what it is right now, that's for sure.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, man, it sounds like a good movie, man. I'll write the script and then I'll run it by you, Michelle. See if
There we go.
yeah. So with that being said, I had let me see, at least Brown Dwarf asked me earlier, do you know Rowdy Kelly from Humboldt? He
Oh
works.
yeah, I don't know him, but I've heard of him. I know he works with the film office, and one of our camera person, Gordon Clatworthy, had worked with him on a project, I think. I might have, and I think I might have actually reached out to him for an audition for something, but I don't actually know him like on a personal basis.
Okay, all right, and let's see. Yeah, and then this is just a point. Welcome to the show. Major Lee was making about what we were just talking about, saying how long would it take a no contact indigenous tribe to reverse engineer an iPhone? It would take them. It would take them a long time. It would take them a long, long time, and that's the
Now that
thing.
could be a movie.
Oh, exactly. And there are lost tribes that we know of that haven't been contacted in thousands of years, like the Sentinelese tribe, North Sentinel Island. They like broke away from Africa like 70,000 years ago, and they've been on this island. And they don't have, well, now they do, because people who shouldn't go in there and interact with them have, and so they kind of have dealt with some of the modern things, but they're pretty much as far removed from modern society as you could be. And that is a good way to look at it. If you gave them something like that, yes, the materials are found here on Earth, but where would they know to go manufacture those? How long would it take them to get to those points? And it would just be a very long time. And so that just kind of points further to why it feels like the government wouldn't just figure it out, you know? And what do you think about Bob Lazar?
Who is it?
Bob Lazar. He came out in 1989, said he worked at Area 51, worked on some of these retrieved alien aircraft.
I've heard the name, and again, you'll have to excuse my unfamiliarity with it because I don't really follow too much of the stuff, to be honest with you.
Okay. He's a big name in US.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard of him. I definitely have heard of him, but I don't follow like what his background is or what he's done.
Yeah, he's on the cusp right now. A lot of things that he said, as he came out in 1989, so it's about 40 years ago. A lot of things that he said back then are starting to kind of flush out and verify themselves today. And we could be in a world, where aliens are normal. And what kind of weird world would that be? I don't know if it'd be too much weirder than the world we're in, though. Really, if you think about it.
That would be, I mean, it would definitely be more interesting. And, there would be like another culture that we would have to, interact with. And I think it would be fun.
I'm up to the challenge. And that's why I press for catastrophic disclosure. So that is a term that is being thrown around in our community, which pretty much means ET show up tomorrow and it's like, hey, we're here. Let's deal with it. Let's talk it out, whatever we're going to do. And a lot of people feel like there's going to be what they call ontological shock from a moment when that happens, that things could be a little shaky, stock markets don't do well. And, even the notion of government powers around the world losing the ability to control the public. That's the kind of scenario there, some people envision when they talk about disclosure, and maybe one of the reasons why the government won't tell us what's going on. Have you ever looked into this to form an opinion on that?
It's kind of a toss up. I mean, can you verify? Can you clarify the question a little bit more?
Yeah. So as far as the government withholding,
it's past my bedtime. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. The government withholding information from the public as far as the notion that extraterrestrials are actually here and present and even abducting people.
Yeah, I mean, and see, that's where the reverse engineering thing is kind of like what I'm like. Maybe they have, and maybe that's why things can be like I've heard of people getting abducted and having a bad experience. I mean, that would make sense because it would be one of those things where the government would like try to simulate it, and you know it wouldn't go well because they would try to be, doing this type of thing. And then they, and maybe the craft or whatever that they would construct might not be like 100% is what I mean. But I do think that it is possible that they might have, maybe not to perfection, might have reverse engineered some stuff. But I think that's where we get into the problem of, people coming back and having the negative and scary experiences, or people that are left with like, burns or, radiation or whatever. And it's like, I don't know. I don't know if all of that would really take place if it was really, an extraterrestrial experience. I'm not sure. I mean, I know for one, myself, after, having had that experience that I mentioned to you earlier, I didn't have any bad, I didn't have any burns. I didn't have any, illnesses or anything like that myself. But
Well, that is, yeah. And like I say, it's an onion. It's an onion, and you keep peeling back layers, and that's just more of what we've done tonight. Because you have, and it's cool to see someone who is hasn't fully had experiences like a lot of others. Like I'm freshly new. I'm fairly new to the subject, as my first experience only happened 2 years ago. So prior to 2 years ago, I'm still not really on board with them being here. But the more and more that I see, and the more and more conversations that I have with people who have it, it's taken me to another place, right? So
yeah,
I'm more open to a lot of these things, even though, like I always say, as a host, you still have to recalibrate yourself and still be middle of the road and not be
right, like neutral
right, exactly.
journalism.
And so it's really cool to see, a person that is even fresher to the experience than I am. Like we talk tonight, and maybe next week you have this experience that really just changes everything for you, and then next time we talk and you tell me about this awesome, crazy, scary encounter that you had. And it's just, it's a cool thing because these things are happening every day to a lot of people. And it's just a matter of time, I think, for most people, if and when something, you either see something or you have an experience with something. One quick question. As far as cryptids go, because we also talk about that on this channel, have you ever dealt with Bigfoot or know anyone that deals with Bigfoot?
I haven't. I have not. And I'm in Northern California right now, and I haven't really had any experience with seeing anything like that. But then again, I don't really, go that far out into the woods.
Which
So
is smart. Which is smart. There is the person that Brown Dwarf mentioned earlier. What's his name? Rousey.
yeah, that guy.
Yes.
I think he does do something with Bigfoot. So
yes, he does. And for whatever, I can also get you the contact information. I guess because he's in your area, if it's something that I'll pass to you once I get that from Brown Dwarf. So he wanted to let you know that.
Oh, sure.
And outside of that, yeah, I mean, we got about 4 minutes left. What do you have planned for 2025? I know you're going to be working on a movie. You can't really say too much about that, but where do you hope to see yourself by the end of the year?
Hopefully in a safe place.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like the world is kind of slowly becoming an unsafe place. And we don't really know what's going to happen, but I'm always trying to be positive about it, and that's all that we really can be. But I'm going to school. I'm going to be going to school and studying consciousness and meditation and that type of thing, and also another form of like getting my master's in writing for screenplay type stuff. So I'm hoping to be able to write something here shortly. I've got to concentrate on getting my BA first, because the school that I went to prior closed. So I was only like a few classes away from getting my BA. So I'm going to concentrate on that, get my BA, and then get my Master's of Fine Art in screenwriting, and go from there. So hopefully everything will be good.
Sounds good, and I hope you achieve all those goals. Sometimes we fall short, but then we just make another resolution for the following year. But you said earlier that you're the one thing that you figured out you wanted to do was CE5. Is that on your list?
Yes, it is. It is, and I haven't really. I am socially awkward. So I have a hard time, making contacts with people, and doing that type of thing. So it is on the plate, and I do want to do that. I think that, and I've been working on other things too, and that's kind of taken up my time, but sometime in the near future for sure.
Well, that's awesome, because that's on my list too. Like I was telling you earlier, I want to get, and what I really wanted to do, and like I said, it just so happens you're a filmmaker, but I did want to put together a documentary or something where we get all the best CE5 minds from around the world, and we try to have this contact event for all of mankind, for all of humanity, and the process leading up to that, and then that big moment. And if something were to happen, that would be so awesome, because it'd be something you could present in front of the world as, hey, this is what we're dealing with. And it's just something I talk about. But I'm a person that believes in synchronicity and stars and things aligning.
Oh yeah, exactly. Me as well.
That's, so I'm going to put it out there, but we know the same people, so I'm sure we'll be in contact and definitely talking again and setting something else up. But we got about a minute left, and I want to make sure that you get to promote where you're at and where people can find you.
Oh yeah. So I guess later, like I can get you the link for the third channel. I also put out another film when I was in film school at AI. It's called Jimmy. It's just a little short film. And get you some things you can put in the link for this particular video. And I'm working on some things that I'm working on, like a slasher musical, for example. It's called We Are the Masked, and I was starting to write it way before the whole like wearing of the mask and the pandemic and all this other stuff. It has nothing to do with anything like that. It's just called We Are the Masked because it's about a whole family of serial killers, and they all wear masks. I don't know. And there's a few other projects that I'm working on that I can't really talk about. I wouldn't say a few more, but there is one in particular that I mentioned before earlier that I can't really like spell the name of because I want to make sure that I get to do it and protect it before anybody else gets it. So
that's awesome stuff. We're going to make sure that we promote you fully. I know we have a lot of those links already in the description, and then we'll add more if they're not there. Thanks so much for coming on, Michelle Blasky, filmmaker, horror filmmaker, and hopefully I'm in a film one day. But we'll see. Thanks for coming in. You have a great rest of your night, Michelle, and we'll talk soon.
After Hours with Mr. Rob G on the only place where you can own the night. Spaced Out Radio.
Spaced Out Radio. You've tuned your dial to the right frequency.
All right, guys. Commercial break number 2. New music for Sundays. Here we go. All right, everyone. Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio. After hours number 3, third and final hour. We're getting ready to come back for radio here in about 15 seconds, guys. Don't go anywhere. Stay right where you're at. And yeah, let's go. All right, everyone. Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio after hour number 3, the third and final hour tonight. With me, your host, Mr. Rob G. The end of the weekend. We're going to go ahead and jump right on into some good stuff. Steve Stockton tells untold, Miss Person Mysteries. Also, Drew Banky with After Hours wrap up and some UFO and weird news. Definitely want to thank our guest, Michelle Blasky, for coming in hours 1 and 2. If you missed any of the conversation, jump in the archives. They're absolutely free. YouTube.com/at Spaced Out Radio. We'll go ahead and get ready to jump in to Steve Stockton Tales Untold Missing Person Mysteries right here in the After Hours Radio Show.
Welcome to Tales Untold and Missing Persons Mysteries on Spaced Out Radio's After Hours. My name is Steve Stockton, and I'm here to take you on a journey of mysteries, legends, and true stories. Come, join me on this strange adventure of Tales Untold and Missing Person Mysteries. In 1966, Point Pleasant was a small town with just a few thousand residents located at the junction of the Ohio and Kanawha rivers. In November of that year, the town experienced a disturbance caused by an unidentified being. Gravediggers at a cemetery in Clendenin, West Virginia, about 80 miles from Point Pleasant, claimed to have seen a man with wings flying over their heads and taking off from a nearby tree. 3 days later, 2 young couples who drove near an abandoned World War II TNT plant approximately 5 miles north of Point Pleasant claimed they saw a large flying man with 10-foot wings and red glowing eyes. The individuals tried to flee from the unidentified creature, driving almost 100 miles per hour. However, the beast chased them and pursued them until they reached the city limits of Point Pleasant. Fearing for their safety, they promptly reported the incident to the local authorities. The media dubbed the creature Mothman, and the story gained national attention, making Mothman a sensation. During the following week, there were at least 8 additional reported sightings of a bird-like creature with massive wings in and around Point Pleasant. Captain Paul Yoder and Benjamin Enochs, who were volunteer firefighters, provided one of these accounts. As per the Gettysburg Times, Yoder and Enochs reported seeing a bird of considerable size with red eyes that were equally large. Some individuals dispute the reported sightings, suggesting that the people of Point Pleasant may have observed a sandhill crane that had deviated from its usual migration path. There were hundreds of eyewitnesses, says Jeff Wamsley, owner of Point Pleasant's Mothman Museum. Born and raised in the town, Wamsley was only 5 years old when the Mothman appeared and began terrorizing his neighbors. Throughout the following year, peculiar incidents persisted. Point Pleasant authorities received an influx of reports detailing UFO sightings and encounters with mysterious men in black. Furthermore, the sightings of Mothman persisted. A tragic incident occurred in 1967, just 10 days before Christmas. During rush hour traffic, the Silver Bridge, which connected Point Pleasant to Gallipolis, Ohio, collapsed and caused the death of 46 individuals. According to some reports, there were sightings of the Mothman at or even on the bridge shortly before its collapse, and it was believed that the creature's presence was a sign of the impending disaster. Wamsley says, the fact that the UFO sightings, Men in Black presence, and the Silver Bridge disaster all happened during the Mothman sightings intrigues many people. It's a fascinating turn of events for a small town like Point Pleasant. According to Wamsley, the residents of Point Pleasant had an encounter with something indeed out of the ordinary. I just don't believe that many people could have made up the same story, says Wamsley. But what it was they saw, I don't believe will ever be truly explained or solved. The Legend of Spearfinger. Several creepy legends associated with the Appalachian Trail originate from the Cherokee people. One of these legends is about Spearfinger, which has been used to frighten children for generations. Spearfinger is described as a witch-like hag who can disguise herself as a friendly old grandmother or even a family member. Spearfinger lurks around the Smoky Mountains' highest peaks as she focuses on children who have wandered away from their homes and parents. These children are usually afraid, which Spearfinger takes advantage of as she tells them she'll help, but her antic is to sing them to sleep slowly. She then uses her finger, made of obsidian, to gouge out their liver and eat it before them. And now we have a story of a young girl who spotted a ghost while camping on the Appalachian Trail. While hiking with her parents on the Appalachian Trail, a young girl experienced her first encounter with the paranormal. The trio made camp for the night, and as her parents slept, she became frightened by something that kept her from being able to rest. The following day, after the eerie night passed, the girl took a brief walk with her mother before they continued their hike. While walking around and enjoying each other's company, her mother suddenly stopped and stared blankly into the distance. The young girl followed her mother's gaze and saw a hazy apparition against a tree a few yards from where they were standing. The man appeared calm but sad, and then he faded away, leaving the tense mother and child bewildered and fearful. The Legend of the Scorched Man. While hiking along the Appalachian Trail, it's not uncommon to experience inner fears and imagine being followed or pursued by unseen humans, animals, or forces. In 2011, a confident man decided to take a week off from work and hike the trail alone. At first, the hiker's journey went well until a terrifying incident occurred that left a lasting impression. On his first day, as he made his way down the trail, night fell, prompting him to set up camp. While alone in the dark, the man heard strange noises approaching his tent. Although slightly alarmed, he wasn't bothered enough to investigate the source of the sounds. The following day, he continued hiking and set up his camp before nightfall. While sitting around his fire later that evening, he was left shocked when he saw a man with badly burned hands, a burned body, and a smoking face standing near his firewood. This experience shocked and left him numb as the burned figure gazed at him before walking away. The terrified man decided to pack up his belongings and leave the area immediately, only to come across a recently burned down house with a sheriff outside. The sheriff told the man that the entire family burned alive in the house 4 days prior. Was the apparition that the man witnessed among those that had perished in the fire? Next, we have another phantom encounter on the trail. During a hike on the Appalachian Trail in May of 1972, a lone hiker encountered what appeared to be a ghost from another time. While on the hike, the hiker noticed a dense ground fog surrounding him, which startled him. As he looked up, he saw a prominent figure walking towards him, wearing a heavy coat and wide-brimmed hat. The phantom slowly staggered about, its eyes facing the ground as if searching for something it had lost. This figure then started walking towards the frightened hiker, still looking at the ground, which made the hiker move aside to avoid being bumped into. As the phantom crossed his path, he suddenly looked at the hiker with cloudy blue eyes, which seemed to stare directly through him. What surprised the hiker the most was that the man's clothing seemed to come from a different period, and he never responded when he tried to say hello. The hiker continued on and looked back for one last glimpse of the eerie figure, only to discover the man had vanished. And what about the story of mysterious abduction by unknown people? Now, there have been accounts of individuals being abducted while hiking and later found after becoming extremely disoriented. In 1988, a hiker had a terrifying experience that, to him, was even more frightening than encountering an apparition. As the man was hiking along the trail, he noticed a bright light emanating from the forest behind him. He was not bothered by anyone, nor did he investigate the source of the light, but he decided to set up camp for the night somewhere nearby. Later, he was awakened by a strange man standing over his hammock. The unfamiliar, lurking man also got startled, fled, and yelled to some other unseen people that the hiker was awake. Being terrified by this incident, the hiker quickly packed up his gear and hurriedly continued his hike to put more distance between himself and the unseen people. He continued hiking nonstop for some time. Nevertheless, while resting in his hammock some nights later, he was cut down, wrapped up, and dragged away to some undisclosed location. Unknown people beat him mercilessly as they shouted to one another while others prepared something. Luckily, the hiker got a chance to cut through his hammock and escape. He reported the incident to the authorities, but the officials never found anyone responsible for attacking him that night.
All right, Steve Stockton tells Untold Missing Person Mysteries once again. thank you so much for being a part of Spaced Out Radio and After Hours Radio Show. So glad that we can have him on board. It's just always awesome. Never get tired of the stories. And we're going to go ahead and jump right on into the After Hours wrap up with our guy, Drew Banky.
You're an irredeemable monster!
Come here, I'm going to eat you! Get in my belly! All right, we are welcoming Drew Banky into the building tonight with the After Hours wrap up. Drew Banky, how are you doing this evening?
Doing great, man. Doing great.
Living the dream.
How are
Living the
you?
dream. Living the dream,
Hey, man.
man. Living the dream.
It's
In these times.
it's 2025, dude. It's Hawk's feeling better, by the way. I did show him the video, and he got bashful when he realized that it was about him. So
Yeah, well, that's the response. I love that response. That is actually totally awesome. Shout out to Hawk. Glad he's feeling better, man.
yeah,
Dude. So we kind of went, we veered off tonight. We got into some speaking to a filmmaker, which is refreshing, and she actually had said the phenomena. What did you think about the conversation tonight? And what is your favorite horror movie of all time as well?
Tonight's conversation was definitely different. It was different. I don't get into horror movies, so I don't really have a
What?
to tell you the truth.
Wow, Drew Banky. Oh my gosh. Where's my womp womp?
Like maybe it wouldn't be a really horror movie, but what is that one with the Contact of the Fourth Kind or something? It's about the owls in Alaska, and it's about ET contact.
I haven't seen that.
Out.
gotta
Man,
check
what
that
is it
out.
called? Something about the fourth kind. The chat's gonna bring it up in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The chat's gonna bring it up.
Because they're always
It's
on
like-
top.
Yeah, the fourth kind.
kind.
That's what it's called. There it is. Told you.
Yeah, definitely.
Debs is right on point.
She's a trivia guru and genius, so she always has the answers. This is her preparing for trivia. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to do that tonight on this show. However, if you are available, we'll do an after show over on the Social Dig once I get home for the night. But yeah, jumping back into this, Michelle did the Halloween 3. See, I'm a horror fanatic. Like literally anything when it comes to Halloween, I'm something scary. When I was 11 years old, I was a werewolf with the top hat, not a top hat, but a brim hat, with the trench coat, with the Freddy Krueger glove. And so I was just like a mishmash of scariness, excellence as a kid for Halloween. You didn't have any favorite? What was your favorite to dress up as for Halloween?
Oh man, I went. I was back in the day during Freddy Krueger was big. And I had a Freddy Krueger glove and everything, but I don't know, it just wasn't my thing. I'd rather be Spider-Man. I kept trying to I would hurt myself as a kid, like trying to climb the walls, but like jumping off the couch onto the wall, and just in my mind being like, I'm gonna climb up this wall, but it never happened. You know what I'm saying? But as far as but I did have a Freddy Krueger glove, man. Like straight up, I did. It was plastic.
Yeah,
little plastic glove.
Oh yeah. It was. Oh man, I thought I was everything. I went and got it from Toys R Us because that's how big of a Freddy Krueger fan I was, man. And I still am to this day. Like I talked about with the guest tonight, Michelle. How dare they do a Freddy Krueger remake, a Nightmare on Elm Street remake, in 2010. How dare they even think of doing that? That was ridiculous, for one, because you didn't have the actual Freddy Krueger in the movie. So it's a no-go. It's a no-go. No. See, you can get away with
Yeah,
that with
so,
Michael Myers and Jason because they wear that mask. So anyone could be
yeah,
behind that
right.
mask.
Yeah,
You can't be.
anybody is. Yeah, some things are better left, how they set. And Freddy Krueger, there's only one guy, there's only one Freddy Krueger. But yeah, I mean, my sisters were into it. I had older sisters, they were definitely into it, so I went through all of them. But yeah, Freddy Krueger really freaked me out because he would be like coming up in under the sheets, and that I think that haunts me to this day. I can't have my feet out from underneath the sheets. I don't care if it's 110 degrees in the bedroom, like my feet's being covered by, the bottom of the sheet one way or the other. Now, I
Oh,
did 2 tours in combat and I'm still don't leave my feet uncovered, you
I was
know.
gonna say there's some vulnerability shown by Drew Banky. That's awesome, man. Because I'm not afraid to. I'm not afraid to say it. I'm definitely. I'll turn the light on as I go down the hall, just because I don't know what's in the dark. I've taken pictures of shadow
Yeah.
people. I know shadow people are in the dark for sure, but I don't know of other things. And I don't have a problem with admitting that and wearing that proudly. So I'm glad that you do the same, because that trek that you make from the location where you're filming right now to go back into the house, I could never do that every single night. So shout out to Drew Banky for making that, even though it's a 2-minute trip. Shout out for you doing that in the middle of the pitch black night, my friend.
Yeah, I walked past 2 ring cameras on the trip though, so anything ever happens, it's on film. It's there ain't no dead space. But yeah, it does, especially some of the conversations I have or hear on here, whether I'm doing, this show or doing an interview somewhere else. Some of the conversations we get into and then walking that walk. But it's one of the things that's beautiful because almost every night you can look up and it's an amazing, the stars are just so amazing because there's not very much light pollution. So
Yeah, perfect clear skies for a huge mothership to just come on down and release thousands of mini little ships. They're gonna fly around and pew pew and all that good stuff.
yeah,
Or just
yeah.
there's so many horror plot lines that could start from where you live, man.
Or they could just come down and give me like set out a pallet of gold bars from Mars that's like 1,000% gold or something. I don't know. Just
Dude,
the thought.
here's what I tried to do. What I tried to do was I wanted to do what earlier, it was not this year, last year, 2023, in the summer, I had taken a road trip to Texas, and we were driving there and back, turnaround trip. And so I was trying to set up itinerary along the way as we went and find and hit specific little destinations that I could film and kind of catalog. And one of those was supposed to be, we didn't get to go, but it was going to be the Texas Chainsaw Massacre house, like the original one from the original
The
movie,
real
because
one.
apparently they moved it, yeah, from its original location to now it's like a bed and breakfast, so you can go stay the night in this place, but they moved it to a whole nother town. But yeah, I'm just a man. I'm a horror guy through and through. So it was awesome to be able to talk to her and see her interpretation of a work, because as I was about to say earlier, Halloween is one of the biggest franchises out there. It is one that I have watched thoroughly, pretty much every episode, and it was just cool to see someone's artistic vision come out on film. Not everybody can do this, right? But you could tell that she knows what she's doing, and the way the film is the way the I can't even explain it. The way that she approached the film was right in line with the other sequels. So I'm gonna take it on
I
myself to
want to
go
know what
watch Season of the Witch and then watch hers afterwards.
I don't want to know what secret project she's working on. She kept hinting on it, man. Like, you know, dangling that hook in front of us. I'm hooked now. I got to figure out. I'm not even a horror film guy. I got to know what that is now.
Look, and on top of that, I'm just trying to get in a film. I when I talked to Ian Holt, who is like one of the first people I interviewed ever on After Hours, he's a friend of the show, and he's the one I got to go out to LA at his film premiere. I was his guest, and I got to shake hands with all the stars of the movie, and sit in the theater, the small little, maybe 50, 100 seat theater, with all the people who made the movie, the stars, the producers, and all that. And it was just really an awesome experience. And the movie's called From the Shadows. If you guys ever want to go out and watch it, as Keith David is one of the main actors in there. He's well known in a lot of different movies, but it was really cool. And I just appreciate artistry. That's why I put the art of film, because it's when you are able to grab something from the air, something that doesn't even exist, and then take that and transform it into something that everyone can enjoy. That is an amazing thing. And I was kind of talking to her about this, but we didn't really get to jump into it because she's also friends with Deb Shakti. But the ability for someone to do that's you're literally tapping into that field that we always talk about, that consciousness field, because I don't believe that ideas are always born within a person. I believe like the person ends up being like a conduit to manifest that creation. And as an artist, that's kind of what you do. I amaze myself when I make music. I amaze myself because the thing that was pictured in my mind is sitting here in physical reality in front of me, and it's it's just one of those things.
No, there's have you ever heard that theory that like the universe, when it has something that it wants done, depending on how much it needs to happen in that moment, it'll spread it out and put it out to several different people. The more it needs to be done in a certain moment, or the faster it needs to be done, the more it'll be put out, with the understand, like the universe has this understanding that most people are just gonna have it as an idea and not act on it. There's only going to be a few people act on it. So have you ever heard of that theory?
Yeah. Say that theory again, because I just want to make sure I'm hearing you.
Well,
We got about 45 seconds.
There's something that has to be done in a certain amount of time. It shoots that idea out to the masses, like the collective.
Yeah.
And there's only, with the understanding that there's only going to be a few people that actually act on it. Most of the people are just going to have it as an idea and it move on. But there's only going to be a few people that actually act on it.
Yes, I've heard of that exactly, and I wanted you to restate it because I was during the conversation with the guest tonight. That's what I was pointing to, and one of the things that she said was that when you don't run with this idea, it pops up somewhere else. It happens all the time. It's happened to me on some of the most obscure thing where I'm like, no one else is thinking about this, and I'm just taking too long to do it. And then a year later or something, all of a sudden somebody did it, and then I'm just sitting here and like, man, you know what I mean? But it's exactly as you said, that idea has been passed on for someone else to bring to fruition, because I didn't do it, because I took time and didn't do it. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and jump in.
I got a cool story after the break.
Yep, definitely. We're going to go ahead and jump into a break here. Last break of the night right here on Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show. You guys don't go anywhere. We're going to be wrapping things up in about 30 minutes. If you leave, come back. If you get popcorn, make sure you come back. We want to see you right here on the After Hours radio show, Spaced Out Radio. clear. Clear. Now we can talk mess. Rashid, thanks for coming on in. Says Substance was good. Is that a movie or is that? Let me know. Let me know what that was. I would definitely love to see that.
T-shirt.
Who else is in here? I didn't say
Sounds
hello
like a
to Dr.
t-shirt.
Love, but it's a t-shirt.
Yeah, Substance was good. It sounds like a t-shirt
Oh.
at a rave or something, you know? At a
Oh,
festival.
okay. You making that up? I'm
Yeah,
trying to make
right
it
on the spot.
exactly. That's what I
Hey,
figured. That's what I figured.
I sent you a little video on Facebook if you want to share it. It'd be a little treat for the people. It's I did some remodeling in the office, and it's just a little short clip of my office. So
Let me
if
see.
people want to see behind the scenes, you know.
Sure, Drew Banky. Sounds like you want to show off.
No, I got a table. I got a new addition here right in front of me. I'm gonna make a coffee table so I can put a little burner out there so I can be making coffee in between because I always run out. 3
Did
hours
you
is a
send
long time for
I'm gonna tell you.
one cup.
Get a Keurig machine. I got one right next to me at on my desk at home. It is a man. I'm telling you. I'm making coffee throughout the show all night long. So I'm looking on your page. I don't see it, man.
No, I sent it to you in Messenger on Facebook.
Yep, I'm in Messenger too. I don't. Okay, it just came through right now.
Oh no.
And it's acting like it doesn't want to load. Let me see if it'll come up here.
Boy. What?
Yeah, it literally just came in.
What were we talking before? Right before the break?
A few different things. Why? What happened?
I have a story.
You're gonna point something out.
Yeah, I had a story that coincided with that, but I can't remember what it is now.
Hold
Chat.
on.
Who's in the chat? Ebs. Help. What were we talking about right before the break?
Hold on. I think I got it here. Also, I'm learning this new streaming software, so I'm gonna forget things in here as well. Let me see. All right, window and Facebook. Here we go. All right, and let's play it.
Yeah, it's gonna be my little coffee corner right there.
Yeah.
All right.
Perfect. Get a little Keurig machine, stick it right there. I'm telling you, Keurig cups.
Yeah.
Oh
That's my
Lord,
big buffalo hide.
Jesus. Oh, okay. You kitted out in there, man. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it, man. That's a huge animal, man. That's a huge animal.
Yeah, that'll be like my coffee. Like when I pass and get buried, I'll get buried in that electric kettle and a French press. Yeah, I think.
I'll see you. I'll see you. I'll see you.
Yeah, that's
a cool
little
bookshelf.
megalodon tooth right there.
I need to do
12,000-year-old megalodon tooth.
Need to do some stuff in my home studio, man. I need some bookshelves. I got books and nowhere to put them at, man. So I need to do the same thing, buddy.
Yeah, man. What were we talking about right before the break? Yeah, thanks to wood paneling, tongue and groove, cabin fever. I made that desk, love. I made that desk. I went and picked out the slab and sanded it down, stained it, and everything, put it together. So this desk I made. Yeah. No, I don't. It's a black walnut desk. Ah,
Got about 20 seconds left.
Anyways, let's talk about the fires. What's going on?
You're
Who's setting
never
fires?
gonna remember. You're never gonna remember.
No, it wasn't that important.
Here we go. Coming back. 10 seconds. All right.
Did I ride the buffalo?
All right, everybody. Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio. After hour 2.5. Last 30 minutes of the show. We're going to go ahead and get into some good stuff with Drew Banky here in the After Hours wrap up. Also, some UFO and weird news. Because why not? We can do it right here on Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show, guys. Yes, we're jumping right back into it. We don't know what we were talking about before the commercial break. So we're just going to jump into some other stuff right now. I'm sure it has something to do with horror movies because that's the guest that we had tonight. Once again, shout out to Michelle Blasky and, her ability to kind of, and that's maybe where we were talking about. I was talking about being able to take an idea from the ether and have that come through you and manifest itself as a physical thing for others to enjoy. And you talked about how, those good ideas, if you don't act on them, get passed on to someone else because they can be acted on in a certain period of time.
Thank you. You brought it right back. So I have a really good friend up in Crestone. This is a story I was thinking about, and it's ideas that come, and if you've ever, most of us will never meet another person that has the same idea that's come to him, but I happen to my best friend up in Crestone. I was helping him build his house years ago, and it was when I was going through the process and going through the dictation and the background work of my first book, I'm Perfect and So Are You. So I was talking to my co-author at night on the phone, and just like hours and hours and hours, but it just was going on for like 2 months. Around that time I was talking to my buddy, and I was telling him, I was like, hey man, I got this book I'm about to put out and I'm working on it. And he's like, well, what's the title of it? I said, I'm Perfect and So Are You. And he had a drink in his hand, and he dropped a drink and he started like tearing up. And he's like, man, about 10 years ago, I was in Alaska and just hiking, and like it was in the summer months. So he was spending like a couple weeks just hiking by himself and camping in Alaska, kind of going through like a spiritual journey. And he had this message and this book that come through, and the title, it was I'm Perfect and So Are You. And he's like, I never went through of writing it because I met his girlfriend, then become wife, and then mother of the 3 kids, and kind of got wrapped up in life. And he's like, and when I told him the premise of the book and everything, he's like, that's the exact same download that come to me in a book that was told to me to write it. And that's the same thing that come to me, like I'm Perfect and So Are You was a message, like it was said for me to write this, gave me the title of it and everything. And it's just to meet someone that has had that same download or message and they didn't go through with it to that specific, it was just pretty crazy, so it does happen, and it's not very often you get to meet a person that didn't go through or got that same message. So
yeah, and it's very interesting. I've seen it happen. I know it's definitely a thing, and being a person who always is a thinker and comes up with ideas, obviously I've seen it happen a lot. But Bomber out in the audience points out a great nugget that I didn't know, which is actually pretty awesome. Space Out Radio, I think it was Prince who said he had to act fast on his ideas before Michael Jackson channeled them and picked them up first. Yeah, I can see that. I can see them being punched into the same part of this consciousness web. And that's all it is. It's just interconnected web of data and information free flowing across the universe, and we're just tapping into it and absorbing what we can during our little physical reality, where we can manifest it into using this physical reality. I don't even, ideas only, and I guess we won't know that until we go to that other side. If ideas only benefit the reality that we live in, like, do ideas carry over onto that other side? Like, are they only tangible, is maybe what I should say, here in this physical reality that we live in? Interesting. I just thought of that. I just
I
thought
don't
of
know,
that.
man. That's a good, it's a good question. There's so much going on right now. Like the have you heard about the Lou Elizondo and Stephen Greer thing? They're like fighting for King Disclosure
No,
position and
no.
stuff right now. It's
Please
crazy.
fill me in.
Oh, you ever heard about Stephen Greer like making a statement within the next 10 days or so? And that was like on the 10th. So he's like putting a timer that there's going to be this huge, he's going to let out a bunch of information and all types of stuff that's going to change the world like within the next 10 days. And Lou is fighting for, like, they're not like open fighting. I don't know if there's any like back and forth comments right now, but they're both like trying to be King Disclosure. It's just funny. I saw a post about it couple earlier today, and I thought it was just funny. A lot of stuff
Well, I
going on.
missed out. I missed out on that. Actually, it's very interesting. I'm glad you brought it up, though, because it goes into one of the things that I just don't like in this field, and that's when people put out dates. Excuse me. Something's going to happen in 10 days. Something's going to happen on this particular day. Oh, by this year, this thing is going to happen. And 90% of the time, probably higher than that, it does not actually happen. And that ends up being my thing when people start putting out dates, and the people who buy into those dates and say, oh yeah, did you hear such and such said? And I'm not talking about you, obviously, Drew. I'm just talking about people in general out there who kind of hang themselves their beliefs on dates. And it's like, what proof do you have of that? Because this person seems like they might know, like, nobody knows. Nobody can pick a date. This thing that Greer just said 10 days is going to come and go, and then he's going to look ridiculous at the end of that. And that's all you get. You get the crow pie. You get to eat the crow pie at the end of this period of time that you have predesignated for something to occur that doesn't happen.
Yeah. Who knows, man? We'll see. I hope this is different, but it's always exciting when someone puts out a date, because it's like, okay, like that's what, Christmas is a date, December 25th, like, as a kid, you growing up and waiting for that date. Like, so when someone gives you a date, like, man, maybe this is something different. Who knows? But yeah, I haven't looked into that. I need to look more into, what's Greer saying and stuff, just to see what he's saying. I know he did put some type of said something about 10 days, and it was within the past couple days. So, and that aligns with, the inauguration and stuff like that. So who knows if that's all tied into it, but
Here's a saying I like to lean on and go to, and this ties right into this. A clock is right. A broken clock is right twice a day. So you can keep throwing dates out there, and then you're going to hit on one of those dates, but it doesn't mean that you knew. It just means that luck has come for you, and something happened but by the time you said it did. But generally, the dates never hit. They never do. The only time that it was weird where it might have seemed like it did was this new thing with Cliff High and this whole drone situation. That's the only thing I could point to where it was like, okay, Andy predicted this supposedly years and years ago, and it was close enough to be like, okay, I could maybe tie those two things together. His vision
Yeah.
that he had, and then this thing that happened. And then I've even seen it with you, Drew. I'll give you a shout out, man. I've seen some things that you have said that came true as well, where I'm just like, I don't know. And then the thing comes true. So I know it's a thing. I know that people can kind of get a feeling but I think unless it's something that you are certain of, it's almost irresponsible to throw a date out there because yes, it gives you something to look forward to. Excuse me, but it also, when you have a date that's out in the future, you kind of just rush through your days until you get to
Yeah.
that date, and then you look back
Yeah.
after 10 dates and 10 years has passed because you've been hanging yourself on a date that someone keeps kicking out
Yeah.
and
I
further
think
down.
dates are tricky, man, because it's all man made, and uh, but you know, I've come to, and I'm gonna clip that earlier when you said shout out to Drew about some things. I'm gonna clip that. That's gonna be on my social by the end of the day tomorrow. I
God, I can't
guarantee that.
that.
But but no, I'm starting to know like feelings, like when when all that stuff was going on. I remember when I made that post, the day before the news broke of the connection between the attacks and the drones. And I was in a discussion with Sean Ryan, Sarah Adams, which is an ex CIA person or something like that, and like 50,000, like 5,000 other people. But I was listening to that conversation. I remember like when I come up with that idea, like it was burning inside me. And I'm glad that I posted it on X because X has a no BS timestamp of when you make posts. So yeah, it's just and it's no one has seen it like 50, like it had like 52 views. It was like nobody's seen it, but for me, it was like confirmation. It's like okay, like you know that feeling right there, like that's what you need to pay attention to. And that's ultimately like breaking it down, getting real personal of the message behind it. That was the ultimate message behind it.
Yeah, and let the people with the clear messages come step forward and maybe deliver their information. Because maybe I think that's some of it too, is that people feel they may be feeling like they're getting a message, but it may not be as clear as they think that it is. And it's like the intuition and things like that we know are real. We've seen it. We know deja vu. We know these senses, being able to sense things is a real thing, so we know that a portion of these things are true, but it gets to a situation where because so many people are throwing dates out there, it gets oversaturated. It's like the boy that cried wolf. And then next thing you know, we're overlooking a person who has a real date, you know what I'm saying, who really has connected to a date. But because of the 15 other people who threw dates out before that person, now we overlook this person who is really trying to
Such
forewarn us of something epic on the way.
is such a great point. It's such a great point. And I'm trying to break through to that next ceiling, with my interviews, and I see like I don't know what discrimination on the amount of followers I have and stuff like that. Like I don't have the 100,000 followers to get the message out there. So it's I don't know. But I go back to trust. It's gonna happen when it's supposed to. And um, even if I don't get on those bigger ones, I'm supposed to be doing something else. But I'm always got something going on. But by the way, I do want to mention like I will be in Joshua Tree. That date is confirmed, that first weekend in February. So if you're in Southern California, I know there's a lot going on with the fires, but if you're called to ayahuasca, something like that, there's a few seats available. Joshua Tree, first weekend in February, coming up in a couple weeks. It is confirmed. I do have my plane tickets. The medicine is already there on site, so it's going to be great.
All right. Well, Drew Banky, awesome stuff, man. We're going to go ahead and end it here so I can get into this UFO and weird news of the week and then wrap up the show, because guess what? I'm going straight home after this to do the live show over on the Social Dig, because I'm testing out some new equipment or a new program. And it was really hard and a burden to get all the assets moved over. I didn't think it was going to be that tough, but it's promising. So we're going to test that out tonight a little bit later. So if anybody wanted to know, there will be an after show after this over at the Social Dig. Give me about 45 minutes to get home and kind of ease into, my office at home. Outside of that, Drew, yeah, man, awesome stuff again. And big week next week. We got we got the rabbi. We talked about the rabbi, and I threw it out there and asked everyone if they wanted the rabbi to come on the show. It's been confirmed. So it looks like we should have the rabbi on next weekend. Also, we have, let's see who else we have.
Can I drop what we was talking about? Can I drop it?
You know what he's
it's not
talking
confirmed,
about?
But no, what me and you was talking about. Can I drop it?
About
the guest that I was just talking about before we went live.
You can, yeah. It's not solid yet though, because we haven't booked it. But
no,
yes,
but it's ready. Caroline Corey, Terror in the Sky, producer, director. Superhuman, producer, director. We're gonna talk about source consciousness. It's gonna be lit, but that is date to be set, but it's solid. So I'm really confident to put that out, and look forward to that one, guys.
Yep, a lot of stuff on the horizon. Reverend Michael Carter coming as well, trying to get David Marler, working on a few people here. And also someone mentioned, I think last week it was, that we should get Rex Bear on the show. And I was like, I hadn't heard of Rex Bear, but I'd be interested in looking into him. And I reached out to him. It seems like we may have him on the show next weekend. So, guys, it's going to be awesome. Make sure that you're here for that as we continue to kick off 2025 in a big way. And that's what we're going to do. So once again, Drew Banky, thank you for coming on in, man. And we will be doing this again sooner than you know. Time flies like that.
Yeah. Love you, Rob. Love you, chat, audience, and everybody. And I'll see you next weekend.
Love you right back, man. Take care and talk to you soon. Drew Banky with the After Hours wrap up. We're going to go ahead and maybe squeeze off one story here with the weird news of the week. And let's go ahead and jump right on into that.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story. And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
All right, UFO and weird news of the week. We're going to go ahead and try to get one out real quick here. With the horror theme show that we had tonight, we're going to go into this horrific story. Morgan Geyser released from psychiatric hospital after stabbing classmate to please Slender Man. Right? Wow. Okay. A judge ordered that they can be released. A person who stabbed a classmate when they were 12 years old to please the fictional horror character Slender Man can be released from a psychiatric hospital, a judge has ordered. In 2014, Morgan Geyser and Anissa Wire, both aged 12 at the time, lured classmate Peyton Leutner to a park after a sleepover where Geyser stabbed Leutner 19 times. The preteen was lucky to survive. They later told the police they had stabbed their classmate to earn the right to be servants of the fictional Slender Man, claiming that they feared families would be harmed if they didn't do it. Geyser pleaded guilty to attempted first-degree intentional homicide, and in 2018 was sent to Winnebago Mental Health Institute in Wisconsin with a 40-year sentence. Wire pleaded guilty to attempted second-degree intentional homicide and was sent to the same facility with a 25-year sentence, but released in 2021 to live with her father on the condition that she wear a GPS monitor. AP now reports that yesterday, a judge ordered that Geyser be released from the psychiatric hospital. Waukesha County Circuit Judge Michael Barron has been petitioned 4 times by Geyser for release since June 2022, though the first 2 petitions were withdrawn and the third one denied last April on the grounds of still being a threat to the public. A teenager when sent to psychiatric hospital, Geyser is now 22, and Barron is granted release, with the judge finding them to no longer be a risk. The judge ordered the State's Department of Health Services to make plans within 60 days to house Geyser in a group home where they can be supervised. Barron described the stabbing as a brutal, terrible offense, but said that Geyser has since grown up and must exist as part of society if there is to be rehabilitation. AP further reports that 3 psychologists who have worked with Geyser at the psychiatric hospital say that there has been progress in the last few months. Dr. Brooke Longbaum told a hearing that the 22-year-old had been weaned off her antipsychotic medication in 2023 and not suffered symptoms since then. Another expert, Deborah Collins, said that there would always be a risk from Geyser since they had stabbed someone but had worked out on their coping skills and emotional control and hates what they did to Leutner. The longer she's there at this point, the harder it is to reintegrate, was the opinion of Dr. Ken Robbins provided to the judge. Wow. Yeah. I don't know how you feel about that, but Slender Man, never do something because Slender Man told you to do it. If Slender Man told you to do it, probably isn't a great idea to do it, because I think Slender Man is in relation to Hat Man, if I'm not mistaken. I think the character is based off of that, from what I heard. I may be wrong. Someone out there will correct me. But with that being said, that is the UFO and weird news of the week. Definitely want to thank everybody for coming on in tonight. It was an awesome show. I want to thank our guest tonight, Michelle Blasky, horror film director extraordinaire. Go ahead and check out her Halloween 3 Season of the Witch remake on the 3rd channel, and it's in the links of this show. Make sure you go and do that. We also want to thank Steve Stockton, Tales Untold Missing Person Mysteries, Andrew Banky, the After Hours Wrap Up. Once again, for another awesome week, and right here at Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours Radio Show. We also want to thank the man that you hear right there, Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal. He's the man that rocks us out each and every weekend as he teaches us to never say never again, because, yes, the phenomena is real. And because of that, anything and everything is possible. If you love the show tonight, go ahead and throw your horns up, show your support. We'd appreciate it. Also, we want to thank listeners all around the world on terrestrial radio and digital platforms from whenever and wherever in the world you may be listening from. Thanks for tuning your frequency to Spaced Out Radio, where we do what we do best. What's that, you ask? We own the night. Remember, this broadcast is copyright SOR Media Ventures Limited, Spaced Out Radio. It has been a pleasure once again serving you as your host. I am Mr. Rob G. This is the After Hours Radio Show. And to all you space travelers out there, this is not a goodbye nor a farewell. However, you could best believe as we go out there for the night, we will be right back here same time next weekend. Much love to everyone out there. Take care. All right. Awesome sauce, guys. Awesome sauce. Awesome show. And glad that we can step outside the box for a moment and do a show not necessarily tied directly to the phenomena and kind of talk about something out the box. Maybe it's something we'll do more often, because why not? There are other conversations to be had out here in this world, and aliens are here every day, and we know that, and we're kind of just pushing till we get more answers as far as that goes. But in the meantime, let's not be afraid to embrace other conversations within this world. Much love to everyone here tonight. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for all the support and love tonight. Denver, Sacramento, you are so awesome. Keep being awesome. Keep being awesome is what I'll say. And outside of that, guys, I'm going to get ready to leave this office so I can travel to my home office and go ahead and set up a show for the night. So see you in about 45 minutes. You guys, we want retribution. Let's get up out of here like we always do. Take care. Have a good night.
Cause we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution.